Welcome to the Insatiable Lust for Life with Stephen North.
Greetings to you all and welcome to the Insatiable Lust for Life. I am Stephen North and I'm here with my beloved Amy North, who is my spirit guide and twin flame. And it's been a while since I've done an actual recording for the Insatiable Lust for Life due to wondering of what to focus on, what to talk about, looking at commercialization of the products, building websites. And the past few months has been about more the music, with the latest album of The Journey being released last month, as well as trying to commercialize the product and apply for government grants. Being a small business that is self-funded can be very, very challenging. And it's been a discussion of late because at the moment you can see that we're trying to do more commercialization into getting this music out there, raising funding to be able to spend more time researching into the therapy that we're creating. I'm looking at networking even more, trying to get more science on board to talk about the light frequencies that we're using within the heart activation music. So challenges is a topic that I really wanted to talk about because in my own experiences over the past few years, challenges have been present. And these challenges are there for growth, not more so for fear, because of fear of losing my home back in 2015, I think it was. Fear of what do I do now? How do I pay my bills? How do I do this? How do I do that? And I've had that for quite a fair bit because the Conscious Living Expo is in November, and even with the opportunities that they've offered lately, unfortunately, it's unable to make that happen because it means that I would need to really push to try and meet the costs to run the expo, and it would be such a challenge to do this that I just went, okay, I need to have a break because there's been so many challenges. So these challenges would be, how do you raise the funds in order to achieve this? Because the last 2 financial years I've had tax returns, and the last one, no. I've not had a tax return because I think I end up having to pay tax because there's been no withdrawals on the superannuation. So being a small business has its limitations. It has its challenges, and it's either you need to find investors or you need to do this or you need to do that. Comes with how I can achieve what I need to achieve. Now, having said that, I have made some great achievements this year with the psychology practice in New York, utilizing the music in their own sessions and seeing the differences in their clients. Discovering that the music helps your brain stop from chattering, which the Blast Awakening articles that I've published talks about, which I'll go into a little bit further. But the challenges are there in order to bring us growth, to look at a way to change the way we think, change our mindset on how we deal with day-to-day things. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to listen to a song from the latest album called The Journey, and this song is titled The Happy Life of Amy North. going to continue on talking about money, fear, and resources. A few years ago, if I did not have a job, I'd be constantly applying for government jobs just so I could sit at a desk and work in order to have money. That money would pay for the drinking habits and the going out and pay the mortgage and pay the cars and the lifestyle that I lived at the time. Today, the way I see money per se is completely different compared to the way I used to look at it, whereas now it's like, okay, this is a resource, this is an energy. What energy can I create with this energy? If this energy is only allows me to purchase up to, say, 100 units of another energy, then how can I turn that into more energy? So rather than looking at it in a financial situation, I started looking at more of units in measurement, in energy, which is what the universe looks at it, because we're all energy in motion. So how can we fill up our resources with more energy? So this is where the poverty consciousness workshop that I've slowly got to work on and get that up and running to teach people how to break this oppression energy. And it's something that Amy discussed recently with Jocelyn Joy Thomas in an Amy session that we call, and where Amy starts talking about how there is this oppression energy. So it got me thinking, going, energy is energy. So if there is this oppressive energy, in theory, we'll be able to recode it, such as recoding an operating system on a computer, recoding an app on a mobile phone. We should, in theory, be able to change this. And before I get further into this, let's take a listen to one of the charting songs that I have on Spotify, which is Enchanting for the Children. Welcome back to the Insatiable Lust for Life with Stephen North. At the moment, I'm theorizing how to go about doing this, what energies I would need to bring forward, what I would need to code in order to neutralize this oppression energy. Because we're so used to having to work extraordinarily hard, go to the blood and bones, and the story of, at the moment I feel like giving up, something happened, or this person came across, or that happened, and then the rise to stardom happened. And like humble beginnings, which is what a lot of these lessons are about. Like every major artist you have seen always talks about humble beginnings. The story of Eminem as the musician is really all about humble beginnings, that he was, and I've only seen the preview. So, but what I have heard is that he was discovered through two people listening to mixtapes, and that's how they found this sound. And he turned out to be an incredible musician. Life has these obstacles. They're there to teach us. And that's the important thing. It's there to teach us, such as my financial hardship experiences really looked at different ways in order to run a business. Because originally I thought I knew what business was, but because of the hardship, I then went down the path of business mentoring, of looking at the NICE government grant, which is small business microfinancing, and they teach you how to do like SWOT analysis, business proposals, business cases, lots and lots of work. And that really opened my eyes to how to run a business efficiently and effectively. So that hardship of being forced to work for the dole really brought in more change. So hardships are there for change. It brings in experiences such as unity, such as co-creations, equality, things like this. And it's really true, because if we look at experiences that happen to this planet on the global scale, such as World War II, prior, as Amy explained, prior to World War II was more about colonial powers and individual areas, etc., etc., etc. And then because of that experience with World War II, at the end of it, we had more equality and unity with the countries, with the US coming through as a superpower and etc., etc. So it allowed us more to trade more and know more what's going on with the world. So these obstacles that we see to be, or that we would label as dark, challenging experiences, are really there for growth and extraordinary growth. So it does also get very frustrating when you've been doing it for 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years, going, when am I going to get a break? Because the idea of just going to get a job and working for the man or working for someone else really does seem enticing, especially when you just go, I've had enough. Let's just go back to a desk job. Let's just go back to the, for me, the medication regime, in order to be able to sit at a desk and plot away doing journals or something, mundane. It's not as exciting, and you don't have the freedom in order to go for a bushwalk in the middle of the day. So these challenges come in all different shapes and sizes. It could be challenges with the mind, it could be challenges with emotions, it could be challenges with the physical. They're all present, and it's really a different experience for sure. The song that I'm about to play for you now is a very vibrant, dancey, happy song that when I wrote it, I didn't realize that it was actually a very popular Punjabi wedding song. The vocals itself sounded really good, so I wanted to see what I could do with it, and I came up with this creation, or I should say Amy and I came up with this creation. So before I get into it and talk more, here is Bartolo Siva. we're coming into a period where the New Age era is literally dead, because what I've seen is that a lot of these New Age teachings are no longer relevant. A lot of the old mystical teachings could, in theory, be no longer relevant because we're moving away from an old Earth and into a new Earth. And by a new Earth, we're referring to moving away from the necessity to focus on an electromagnetic system that the planet is. And this is what I've noticed and read recently when I've been publishing The Blast Awakening, that this whole planetary system is based on electromagnetic energy frequencies. And we do this because we can measure it. We can obtain a measurement, such as the radio frequencies, 101.5 FM. That's a hertz in measurement. You move the dial in order to shift the frequencies of the receiver. Now, what happens if we cannot measure that energy and we have to find new utilities or new devices or even new codes of measurement when we're moving into a frequency that cannot be measured, such as similar to electromagnetics? So what we're moving into, the new Earth, is where a lot of the old electromagnetic-based modalities will become obsolete. The teachings based on karma, duality, masculine, feminine, will become obsolete. It's all associated with the electromagnetic energy systems. So if we get rid of the electromagnetic system, what have you got left behind? You've got a pure fifth-dimensional energy that talks about unity. It promotes unity. It promotes oneness because, as the masters say through Rebecca Dawson, the new Earth has room for one, and one alone, and that is oneness. So by the planetary system going through the energetic upgrades that it's going through, the human system's getting the energetic upgrades that we're going, we have to let go of the duality systems. We have to let go of masculine, feminine. We have to let go of the idea of karma. We have to let go of, things that just no longer make sense because they're no longer needed. The energetic practices of ancient history are going to be obsolete because they're no longer necessary because human energy systems have changed. And this is why it's so very important to make sure that if you're going to be in the role of a teacher or a mentor or an enlightened soul, such as what I found out what I am again, is an enlightened soul that has this information, we must make sure that we are not teaching the old, because the old is not relevant anymore. And that has been one of my struggles because everyone has given me all this information and I'm sitting there going, this is old, this is not relevant, this is not needed. You get people that are comparing themselves going, well, you're years behind in your ascension work, therefore you must be, I'm better than you, superior. There are these mentalities and attitudes that really aren't helpful at all. And it's saying, the example that I'm using is one that I've experienced where a person is going, well, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, and these are the categories, and this is everything else, and this is this, and this is that, and I'm just like, who gives a... Who cares? It's not important. The fact that someone goes, well, I was a prophet in Atlantean times, well, I'm sorry, but Atlantean times is non-electromagnetic. You're living in an electromagnetic world. You may as well say that it's just not relevant. I mean, what happens if you're a prostitute in a past life? You're going to sit there and say, hey, I'm a prostitute during Atlantean times? What's the point of creating an identity based on what you were? Because today, with the planetary system shifting between the two, between the electromagnetic and we would say more of a scalar energy type, everything in the past is no longer relevant because it's old, it's obsolete. It's kind of like your car, you're driving around in a 4-cylinder 1800s vehicle and today you're driving around in something that's running on electricity or helium or water or whatever it is. The same mechanics does not apply because there are different systems. And this is what's really important with what is happening on the planet at the moment. You've got so many new systems coming in, such as heart activation music, which is... It's not new. It's been on other planetary systems before. It's a 10th dimensional energy type, but it's new into where we are in this stage of the planetary's evolution. And it's a big step for us, such as, as Cassandra put in the Blast Awakening, from Neanderthal to human, was a big evolutionary stage for humanity, and now we're going through another one. So there's so many things that we're going to be seeing over the next few years, but we must assure you that these new modalities that are coming through are relevant to today, and the old ones are relevant to yesterday. So before we continue on, getting towards the end of the show, let's sneak another song in from the Journey album, and this one is called Serenading Amy. a lot of this information is getting so skewed because of people's identity and personalities and different belief systems, and this is all fourth dimensional stuff. The minefield of the fourth dimension is insane. It really causes a lot of grief for people, and this is where Amy and myself can help, and this is where the heart activation music can help. And eventually, when I get this therapy up and running, you'll be able to visit other practitioners in order to help recode the consciousness of the mind, because when things get too much, because depression and grief and financial struggles and hardships and all this sort of stuff really can emotionally hurt, because the physical may hurt, if we're self-sabotaging, the physical can be impacted. If the emotional systems are impacted, the mental systems are impacted. It really does create chaos within. There are ways to accelerate that change and not spend years dwelling on how to get through. It's like, okay, let's focus on rebuilding. Let's create new systems instead of having to destroy the old ones in order to create a new one. Let's transition and build new whilst the old closes. Very interesting concept. We can do it. It can be achieved. So the Journey music album has been released, and it's an incredible album. It's months and months of work. I've got another few albums. In fact, you could really put that as that was the introduction era, the journey era into discovery of the heart activation music therapy, because the information that Amy has recently brought through now is so different compared to when we first created it. It's now moving into a whole new field of the way that we do the work together, the way that the music is structured, the way that the light frequencies and the energy codes within that song is structured. It's going to be taking on a new life. So if you want to share the new songs that have just been released, there's some beautiful music, and I will play one of my favorites at the end of this very soon. This is Stephen North. I'm here with Amy North. We thank you for tuning in. This is the Insatiable Lust for Life. We are kickstarting this up again. We are doing it in shorter sessions, in shorter bursts, so that we can explore more. And we thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you, and we shall speak with you soon.
Welcome to the Insatiable Lust for Life with Stephen North.